Hello, how's it going, everybody? Let me get this camera a little bit bigger here. It's been a while, huh? So today we're jumping into Isaiah chapter 12. This is our first stream back since the week before Christmas. Let me get the text up on screen too. Today I just skimmed over the subheadings for today's reading, and today looks like is going to be pretty interesting. So let's get the text up. We're doing 12 to 14, so you guys can get your Bibles out in the meantime. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so that's the text up. I'll make that bigger. Okay, all right. And let's move this over, actually. Okay, cool. That works. So, today, Isaiah chapter 12, going all the way to 14. Let's just jump into this. Wait, let me just check the audio. Check the audio, make sure we're not lagging. All right, perfect. All right, so let's get that up. Okay, boom. Let's go. Isaiah chapter 12 to 14. Do they have audio on? There we go. All right, we're back in action.
And in that day you will say,
O Lord, I will praise you. Though you were angry with me, your anger is turned away, and you comfort me.
Ooh, a hymn in Isaiah. Who wrote this one?
Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. For Yah, the Lord, is my strength and...
I think that's the first time we've ever heard a reference to Yah, Yahweh. Or maybe we did one other. I think I vaguely remember another reference. To Yah. Okay, so what does Yah and Yahweh mean? Exactly. Yahweh. Right? We know Yahweh. But can Yahweh be broken down? Like they refer to just Yah. Yahweh or Lord. But what about just Yah? Maybe it's just a short, maybe it just means Lord and it's just a shortened form. Maybe I can type in Yah versus Yahweh. Why Yah and Yahweh? For a fuller description of the emergence of Yah as a substitute of saying Yahweh. Okay, so it is used as a substitute. I gotta look at his book. For all the reasons, it is attractive to many people to use Yah as a different substitute for this unpronounceable name. Oh, because they can't use. Some people say don't use Yahweh. Some people don't say the name of Yahweh. So we could just pause at Yahweh or breathe. So they don't say the name of Yahweh. So instead, some people use Yah. Interesting. That could be one of the reasons why it is written as Yah instead of Yahweh.
Song. He also has become my salvation.
Therefore with joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. And in that day you will say, Praise the Lord, call upon his name, declare his deeds among the peoples, make mention that his name is exalted. Sing to the Lord, for he has done excellent things. This is known in all the earth. Cry out and shout, O inhabitant of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel in your midst.
That's interesting. I'm wondering who wrote this, right? Because in Psalms, when we got these Psalms, right, a hymn of praise, when we got all these hymns of praise in Psalms, we had some subtext there, or like a superscript, right, before the actual song, and it contained usually the author of the hymn, some contextual information regarding like maybe the instruments or the tune it was written to. I want to look this up and see, was this Isaiah that wrote this? Do we know who wrote this? Let's look it up. Isaiah chapter 12. Isaiah 12 commentary. Isaiah chapter 11 spoke powerfully of the reign of the Messiah as king over all the earth. Okay, did you get that when we were reading it? Did you get that from it? This brief chapter of praise comes from the heart of the one that has surrendered to the Messiah as king and enjoys the benefits of his reign. If it was talking about the Messiah, it makes somewhat sense that Isaiah probably wrote it because it is a prophecy. Let's go ahead and read this again with that in mind. So here's the clue. And in that day, what day? Let's look at chapter 11 real quick. Because we were talking about that day. That day, what was that day? And that was a different occasion, and when we were talking about that. But in the same sense, we need to find out what that means. The Lord will utterly destroy the tongue of the sea of Egypt with his mighty wind. He shall shake his fist over the river and strike it in the seven streams and make men cross over dry shod. There will be a highway of remnant of his people who will be left in Assyria, as it was for Israel in the day that he came up from the land of Egypt. So are we talking about the judgment that came upon Israel after their horrible deeds, praying to false gods and whatnot? And or are we talking about the end times? This is a similar question we had before, I believe, from what I remember. And it shall come to pass in that day, right? We had this question, that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people who are left. Right? So reading just that, you could be like, hey, this is talking about the end times, the second coming. But he's saying from Assyria and Egypt, from Pathros and Cush, from Elam and Shinar, from Hamath and the islands of the sea. He will set up a banner for the nations and will assemble the outcasts of Israel and gather together the dispersed of Judah and from the four corners of the earth. Right? Because God's people are spread across the entire earth today. Also the envy of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not harass Ephraim. And we keep on going, right? But we could have read this as, but see here, it says, there shall come forth a rod from the stem of Jesse. What is that talking about? And a branch shall grow out of its roots. Is the rod that comes from the stem of Jesse talking about the Messiah? I mean, this translation believes that, right? Because they capitalize the R. But could it also refer to the royal bloodline? That rod is the royal bloodline, not necessarily one being the Messiah. What do you guys think about that? His delight is in the fear of the Lord, and he shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears, talking about the Messiah. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. right? Because Jesus didn't. If this is talking about the Messiah instead of the king, right? It could be talking about the king, as in multiple kings throughout the line of David, or it could be talking about one particular one, Jesus. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth. That's what Jesus did. With the breath of his lips, he shall slay the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt of his loins, and faithfulness the belt of his waist. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the young goat. And Jesus took company of people of all walks of life. He had tax collectors. He had his disciples, right? He had tax collectors and fishermen following him. So the wolf shall also dwell with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the goat. The calf and the young lion and the fatling together. Or this could be talking about what the reign of Jesus would be like, In heaven, we know that it's going to be like this, right? So, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, the young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play by the cobra's hole, and the weaned child shall put his hand in the viper's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. So this is talking about on earth, not in heaven. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, who shall stand as a banner to the people. For the Gentiles shall seek him, and his resting place shall be glorious. So it looks like we are talking about one specific individual. And the Gentiles shall seek him. See, Gentiles seeked Solomon also. But the Gentiles also did seek Jesus. So who are we talking about here? Are we talking about an earthly king, or are we talking about the Messiah? Because that will determine what, and it shall come to pass in that day. What day is that? Whatever that day is, that will determine who this his is, or this his will determine what that is. But these are clues that we can use to identify one another, right? Because if this is talking about much later on, maybe the end times or the time of the Messiah reign, right? That his is probably the Messiah. If it's any other time, this could be any king from the line of Judah. What do you guys think? Let me know. That's interesting. So if we are talking about it as the Messiah, O Lord, I will praise you, though you were angry with me. Your anger is turned away, and you comfort me. Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. Remember, this is the time when God was raining down a divine judgment on the people. Because they turned away from him, remember? Israel and Judah. I will trust and not be afraid, for Yah, the Lord, is my strength and song. Right, so these are probably the remnant, the leftover. I believe it was like 1,000. For Yah, the Lord, is my strength and song, and he also has become my salvation. Therefore, with joy you will draw water from the wells of salvation. And in that day you will say, praise the Lord. Call upon his name. Declare his deeds among the peoples. Make mention that his name is exalted. Could be the end times. Sounds like it could be the end times. It could be not. It might not be. Sing to the Lord, for he has done excellent things. This is known in all the earth. Cry out and shout, O inhabitant of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel in your midst. What do you guys think? When are we talking about? Who are we talking about? I'd like to know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'd be very interested in reading them. But for now, let's jump into 13. Wait. Let's see this commentary back again. Let's see what they got to say. So this commentary believes they're talking about the Messiah. O Lord, I will praise you, though you were angry with me. The worshiper decides to praise the Lord, even though he has felt Lord's anger against him. Under the new covenant, does God get angry with us? There is a sense in which all the anger and wrath of God against us was poured out upon the Son of God on the cross. In this sense, there is no more anger from God towards us because his anger has been exhausted. I don't know about that. God can be angry. He's going to rain down judgment at the end. He can. I feel like he could be angry with us just because Jesus came and died for our sins, right? We still have to. We can't. We can't get away with everything. He can still get angry if we do things wrong. We're still sinning if we do things wrong. We're not saved 100% just because Jesus died for us, right? We have to accept him. We have to accept that death. But there's also a sense that in which we receive chastening or discipline from the Lord, which certainly feels like his anger. The chastening feels unpleasant, but it really shows the fatherly love of God instead of his hatred. Okay, I guess I can see what they're saying. They're not saying that God is necessarily, he's not angry, he's not hateful, not hateful, but he doesn't hate us. He's not out there to come and utterly destroy us. He knows that there's a plan. This is what's going to happen. He's not going to get angry and want to wipe us off the face of the earth again, right? No more flood, right? Like remember when the children of Israel created the golden calf that Aaron did for them, God wanted to wipe them all out, but Moses had to talk them down. Something like that is not going to happen, looks like, according to this commentary. Until until Judgment Day. Your anger is turned away. It is wonderful when the anger of God is turned away. In the larger sense, his anger is turned away because of what Jesus did on the cross. Jesus put himself between us and the anger of the Lord. And receiving that anger in himself, he turned away God's anger. In the sense of God's chastening or discipline in our lives, how wonderful it is when his anger is turned away and spanking stops. And you comfort me, right? This is sort of self-explanatory. Behold, God is my salvation. The worshiper wants others to see what he says is true. He is excited about what God has done in his life and invites all to behold the work of the Lord. So we don't know who this worshiper is. God is my salvation. This is salvation. To say God is my salvation is to say, I am not my salvation. My good works, my good intentions, my good thoughts do not save me. God is my salvation. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think. When does this take place? And who is that he we're talking about in verse 11, chapter 11. But for now, let's jump into chapter 13. Actually, man, I'm curious. If there's another commentary that has another differing opinion, let's see. Isaiah 13. What did I do? Oh, we're doing 12, right? Isaiah 12 commentary. Let's see. Come on. I'm on something that's organized a bit better. This is the former part of the hymn of praise, which is prepared for the use of the church, of the Jewish church, when God would work great deliverances for them, and of the church, the end of the Christian church, when the kingdom of the Messiah should be set up in the world, in despite of the opposition of the powers of darkness. So if this was written for the Jews to use in their worship, right? Because it is a hymn, maybe it wasn't a work of prophecy. However, the message is applicable to the modern Christian church with the Messiah. What do you guys think about that as well? Let me know. In that day thou shalt say, O Lord, I will praise thee. The scattered church, being united into one body, shall, as one man, with one mind and one mouth, thus praise God, who is one and his name one. In that day when the Lord shall do these great things for thee, thou shalt say, O Lord, I will praise thee. That is. Okay. That day. In that day. That sounds like we could be talking about our future, right? When the church is united into one body, right? Under Jesus, right? But think about the circumstances that they're in. The Jews are scattered everywhere. People have fallen out of the faith. They have adopted idol worship and paganism. Within Judah and Jerusalem, people are worshiping idols. So there are a few remnant in Judah, probably scattered in the neighboring areas, that still hold to the true faith, to God. And they're coming together. And remember, there's a song for those times. So this could be, the song could be like a beacon of hope that, we will live on, we'll come together. Something like that. I feel like it is most likely, it was written for the people at the time, right? That's why I'm thinking it maybe wasn't a work of prophecy, but that doesn't mean that it could be applicable to us today. What do you guys think? I'm going to put this in the comment section. I'm not going to read this all now. In the description. I'm not going to read this all now because we got to jump to 13. This is quite a bit. But I'll leave it down there for you guys to check out. So let's jump into Isaiah chapter 13 right here.
The burden against Babylon, which Isaiah the son of Amos saw. Lift up a banner on the high mountain. Raise your voice to them. Wave your hand that they may enter the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for my anger. Those who rejoice in my exaltation. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like that of many people. A tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts musters the army for battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven. The Lord and his weapons of indignation to destroy the whole land. Wail, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It will come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore, all hands will be limp.
Let me go back. Let's take that. This is a lot. So the burden of against Babylon, which Isaiah saw, which Isaiah the son of Amos saw. Lift up a banner on the high mountain. Raise your voice to them. Wave your hand that they may enter the gates of the nobles. I have commanded my sanctified ones. I have also called my mighty ones for my anger. So who are these guys? Angels? Are we talking about the end times here? Those who rejoice in my exaltation. The noise of the multitude in the mountains, like that of many people. The tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. So is it the sound of nations gathered together? Literally, nations gathered together? Or are the sounds of the sanctified ones like the sound of nations gathered together? The Lord of hosts musters the army for battle. They come from a far country, from the end of heaven. The Lord and his weapons of indignation to destroy the whole land. Let's look up a commentary for this. This is cool. Can I just put 13 up in here? Hopefully it's the same URL. Okay, perfect. Hitherto, the prophecies of this book related only to Judah and Israel, and Jerusalem especially. But now the prophet begins to look abroad and to read the doom of divers of the neighboring states and kingdoms. For He, that is King of saints, is also King of nations, and rules in the affairs of the children of men, as well as those of his own children. But the nations to whom these prophecies do relate were all such as the people of God were in some way or other conversant and concerned with, such as had been kind or unkind to Israel. And accordingly God would deal with them, either in favor or in wrath. For the Lord's portion is his people, and to them he has an eye in all the dispensations of his providence concerning those about them. The threatenings we find here against Babylon, Moab, Damascus, Egypt. Well, this is going generalizing the entire, summarizing the entire chapter. Let's go specifically. Let's look right here. The general title of this book was The Vision of Isaiah, the son of Amos. Makes sense, because that's what that first bit was saying, right? This is what Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw. And I'm pretty sure he didn't literally see this, right? Here we have that which Isaiah saw, which was represented to his mind as clearly and fully as if he had seen it with his bodily eyes. But the particular inscription of this sermon is the burden of Babylon. It is the burden, a lesson they were to learn. So some understand it. But they would be loth to learn it, and it would be a burden to their memories, or a load which should lie heavily upon them, and under which they should sink. Those that will not make the word of God their rest shall find it made a burden to them. Okay. Let's get to some. Let me read this commentary first because it is broken down nicely, and then maybe we can jump into that one. I wish more websites had their commentary broken down like this website. Like, it's visually, like with the bold, and then broken down by the verses, and then each point that they want to make. Anyways, so burden. In the prophets, a burden is a heavy message, weighty of weighty importance, okay, against Babylon. Isaiah finished his prophetic career in 685 BC, almost 100 years before Judah finally fell before the Babylonian Empire. Okay, so we are talking about literally against Babylon. At the time of this prophecy, Babylon was a significant nation, but they were definitely behind the Assyrian Empire in status. Yet the Lord, who knows the end of all things, can speak of the judgment on the pride of Babylon hundreds of years before the judgment comes. The burden against Babylon will last until the end of Isaiah 14. Adam Clarke says from this passage, the former part of this prophecy is one of the most beautiful examples that can be given of elegance of composition, variety of imagery, and the sublimity of sentiment and diction. In the prophetic style, the latter part consists of an ode of supreme and singular excellence. Why did God speak to Babylon? This prophecy was probably never published in Babylon, so it wasn't really given as a warning to them. Instead, the reason was for the help of the people of God. First, by showing them that God was indeed just and would judge the wicked nations around them. Israel and Judah were feeling the sting of God's discipline, right? That's what we've been reading. And in such times, we wonder if God is unfairly singling us out. This is assurance to them that he isn't. Second, Babylon and the other nations in this section were nations that had come against Israel and Judah. And God showed his love to his people by announcing his vengeance against their enemies. The Lord of hosts musters the army for battle. This is an army of judgment against the Babylonian Empire, prophesied decades before they were even a superpower. This powerful army is described vividly with sights and sounds of the battle presented. They will be amazed at one another, When Babylon fell suddenly by a clever surprise attack from Cyrus, the citizens of the city were completely shocked. The day of the Lord comes. Isaiah now speaks in the prophetic tense, having in mind both a near fulfillment, the day of the judgment against the Babylonian Empire, and an ultimate fulfillment, the day of final judgment, the final day of judgment and the return of Jesus. So, see, do you think when Isaiah was writing this, he had both in mind, or did he have the near fulfillment in mind? That's the question that I'm trying to figure out for a lot of this stuff. What was the intention when writing this? Because I don't want to draw conclusions based on preconceived notions. The stars of heaven and their constellations will not... Wow. What is this? We don't think we got to that yet. Let's keep on going. That does sound like some end time stuff.
End of heaven, the Lord and his weapons of indignation to destroy the whole land. Wail, for the day of the Lord is at hand. It will come as destruction from the Almighty. Therefore, all hands will be limp. Every man's heart will melt, and they will be afraid. Pangs and sorrows will take hold of them. They will be in pain as a woman in childbirth. They will be amazed at one another. Their faces will be like flames. Behold, the day of the Lord comes, cruel with both wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. And he will destroy its sinners from it, for the stars of heaven and their constellations will not give their light. The sun will be darkened in its going forth, and the moon will not cause its light to shine.
I will punish the world for its evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. I will halt the arrogance of the proud, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. I will make a mortal more rare than fine gold.
Yo! I will make a mortal more rare than fine gold. So God will destroy the people. Like, there's not going to be many people left at all.
Man more than the golden wedge of Ophir. Therefore I will shake the heavens, and the earth will move out of her place in the wrath of the Lord of hosts, and in the day of his fierce anger. It shall be as the hunted gazelle, and as a sheep that no man takes up. Every man will turn to his own people, and everyone will flee to his own land. Everyone who is found will be thrust through, and everyone who is captured will fall by the sword. Their children also will be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses will be plundered, and their wives ravished. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, who will not regard silver. And as for gold, they will not delight in it. Also,
Medes. I know the Persians took over Babylon. The Medes were Old Persia. Medes and the Persians. Man, I need like a timeline. Here's the colorful one. Let's see. So, right, we have Assyria, then we have Babylon, then we have Persia. Did the Medes come along with Persia? Right, I remember we looked into this earlier. The the line of kings in Persia. Of the Medes and the Persians. First mention of the Medes in scripture is found in the prophetic utterance of Isaiah when he declared 175 years before it was fulfilled. So it was fulfilled. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver. A little bigger. As for gold, they shall not delight in it. Isaiah 13:17. In succeeding verses, the downfall of Babylon is predicted. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Jeremiah includes the Medes as one of the many nations which will be punished by God. Jeremiah also states that the Medes will also be used of God to destroy Babylon. Make bright the arrows, gather the fields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of Medes. Camera died. Let's get this backup camera up and running. There we go. That is so handy. That is so handy. Okay. So let's get back to this. All right. So Medes will be used of God to destroy Babylon. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the king of Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. Thus, long before Babylon fell, it was predicted that the Medes would be avenging gods and would be God's avenging instruments. I remember he used did he use the Assyrians to attack Israel or something like that? I think we read that earlier. God used Assyrians? Let me just look this up and see. Right, he used another kingdom to rain judgment. Was it Syria or Assyria? I don't know. I mean that was from a previous thing. I'm going off on a tangent. It was also given to Daniel the prophet, however, to give the Medes and the Persians their proper place in the panorama of future history. The Medes and the Persians are anticipated in the expression in Daniel 2:39, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. This refers to the chest of silver in the image of Daniel 2, where the two arms anticipated the dual kingdom of the Medes and the Persians. So it was a dual kingdom of Medes and Persians that came after. More detail is given in the vision of Daniel recorded in 7:5, where Daniel describes the second beast in these words. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth, of between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. The kingdom of the Medes and the Persians is described as a bear, which raised itself on one side, referring to Persia being greater than Media, and has 3 ribs in its mouth. No explanation is given of this. Okay, well, we don't need to go into the symbolism of that. We'll touch more into that when we get to Daniel. Okay, but what was the important takeaway from that is Medes and Persia. They were like a 2-for-1 bundle kingdom, right? So I don't know. That's what I was trying to aim at. When we're talking about, I will stir the Medes against them, are they talking about Persia as well? Because I remember Persia was the one that took them down, Babylon, you know? Because Persia was the one that freed the Israelites from Babylon and sent them back to Israel, to Jerusalem. And they rebuilt the temple and the wall, and we talked about that. Let's look up commentary. (13, 17). If this prophecy was made decades before the Babylonian Empire defeated the Assyrian Empire and became a superpower, it was even longer before the time when the Medes came against the Babylonians, conquering them as instruments of God's judgments. Okay. So he did use, and we did talk about that, right? But it was the Persians. So the Persians and the Medes, can they be used interchangeably? Let me know in the comment section. Can Medes and Persians be used interchangeably?
Their bows will
Since it was a joint kingdom.
dash the young men to pieces, and they will have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eye will not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans' pride, will be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It will never be inhabited, nor will it be settled from generation to generation.
So Babylon
Nor
is just
will the
wiped out. It's
Arabian
gone. It's
pitch
done.
tents there, nor will the shepherds make their sheepfolds there. But wild beasts of the desert will lie there, and their houses will be full of owls. Ostriches will dwell there, and wild
owls.
goats will caper there. The hyenas will howl in their citadels, and jackals in their pleasant palaces. Her time is near to come, and her days will not be prolonged.
Prophesying the judgment of Babylon. Hey, look who it is. That's literally us. We're doing this stream right now. It was 13, let's go 14.
For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will still choose Israel, and settle them in their own land. The strangers will be joined with them, and they will cling to the house of Jacob. Then people will take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel will possess them for servants and maids in the land of the Lord. They will take them captive, whose captives they were, and rule over their oppressors. It shall come to pass in the day the Lord gives you rest from your sorrow, and from your fear and the hard bondage in which you were made to serve, that you will take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, How the oppressor has ceased, the golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, the scepter of the rulers. He who struck the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he who ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted, and no one hinders. The whole earth is at rest and quiet. They break forth into singing. Indeed, the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, Since you were cut down, no woodsman has come up against us. Hell from beneath is excited about you, to meet you at your coming. It stirs up the dead for you, all the chief ones of the earth. It has raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. They all shall speak and say to you, Have you also become as weak as we? Have you become like us? Your pomp is brought down to Sheol, and the sound of your stringed instruments. The maggot is spread under you, and worms cover you. How you are fallen
brutal.
from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. How you are cut down to the ground.
Okay. So, are we talking about Lucifer here? Or are we talking about Babylon? Because Babylon was up there, like Lucifer, with Daniel being there and all that. It was great. And then they fell. Like Lucifer. So, are we talking about Lucifer here? Are we using a metaphor? What do you guys think? Let me know. It's a completely different section, but was it written like that? Was it separated in the original text?
You who weakened the nations, for you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also...
I think that's something probably Nebuchadnezzar said? I don't know. Right? He wanted to rule over everybody.
So sit on the mount of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol.
If this was Lucifer talking, why would he be saying, I will ascend above the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Wouldn't he be just, I'm going to heaven? Why right above the clouds? Go higher. Well, he says, I will ascend into heaven. That's just using figurative language, I think.
To the lowest depths of the pit. Those who see you will gaze at you and consider you, saying, Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who did not open the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, all of them, sleep in glory, every one in his own house. But you are cast out of your grave like an abominable branch, like the garment of those who are slain, thrust through with a sword, who go down to the stones of the pit, like a corpse trodden underfoot. You will not be joined with them in burial, because you have destroyed your land and slain your people. The brood of evildoers shall never be named. Prepare slaughter for his children because of the iniquity of their fathers, lest they rise up and possess the land and fill the face of the world with cities.
Okay. So it seems like they were talking about Babylon, and Lucifer was just being used as a metaphor. That's what I took from it. So, did they use Lucifer as a metaphor because his story had parallels to Babylon? Like, you could use it as a metaphor, so they did. Or were they really talking about Lucifer here and then start talking about Babylon? What are your thoughts on that? Let me know. Let me look this up as a commentary 14. How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning. Here the prophet identified the king of Babylon as Lucifer, son of the morning. So we are talking about the king of Babylon. Some debate if Lucifer is a name or a title. The word meaning morning star or day star, right? Because this is because we don't know if they're talking about Satan here. We're just using the word Lucifer. Whether it is a title or a name makes little difference. This once brightly shining king of Babylon is now fallen from heaven. Okay, so they are seeing the metaphor there, like we just saw when we were reading it. In the prophetic habit of speaking to both a near and distant fulfillment, the prophet will sometimes speak more to the near or more to the distant. Here is a good example of Isaiah speaking more to the distant, ultimate fulfillment. It is true that the king of literal Babylon shined brightly among the men of his and fell as hard and as completely as if a man were to fall from heaven. But there was a far more brightly shining being who inhabited heaven and even fell more dramatically, the king of the spiritual Babylon, Satan. In fact, there are 4 falls of Satan, and this passage refers to his final 4th fall. Satan fell from the glorified to profane. This is what Jesus spoke of in Luke 10:18, when he says, he saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. This is the only fall of Satan that has already happened. Satan will fall from having access to heaven to restriction on earth. And we get to more little opinions and thoughts on that. Son of the morning. This is a title of glory, beauty, and honor, which fit Lucifer well before his fall. The morning is glorious, and in Hebrew thinking, the son of is categorized by X. The son of X is categorized by X. So before his fall, Lucifer was categorized by the glory of the morning. Interesting. Jesus himself called the bright and morning star. He's called that. Cool. Satan, though, being created, had some of these glorious qualities in himself. No wonder that Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light, deceiving many with his apparent glory, beauty, and goodness. Okay, so basically we were talking about the king of Babylon. But again, parallels could be drawn to the Messiah.
For you have said in your heart,
has
the brood of evildoers shall never be named. Prepare slaughter for his children because of the iniquity of their fathers, lest they rise up and possess the land and fill the face of the world with cities.
For I will rise up.
So, just like how God wanted to kill all paganism, the women, children, everybody, he wanted them wiped out because he didn't want that ideology infiltrating Israel. And he didn't want that ideology spreading throughout the land. Here, what is he saying? Because of the iniquity of their fathers, lest they rise up and possess the land and fill the face of the world with cities. So God doesn't want the world filled with cities. He doesn't want their ideology to spread throughout the land. So prepare to slaughter the children.
Against them, and cut off from Babylon the name and remnant and offspring and posterity. I will also make it a possession for the porcupine and marshes of muddy water. I will sweep it with the broom of destruction.
The Lord of hosts has sworn, saying,
Surely, as I have thought, so it shall come to pass. And as I have purposed, so it shall stand. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, and on my mountains tread him underfoot. Then his yoke shall be removed from them, and his burden removed from their shoulders. This is the purpose that is purposed against the whole earth. And this is the hand that is stretched out over all the nations. For the Lord of hosts has purposed, and who will annul it? His hand is stretched out, and who will turn it back?
This is the burden which came in the year that King Ahaz died. Do not rejoice, all you of Philistia, because the rod that struck you is broken. For out of the serpent's roots will come forth a viper, and its offspring will be a fiery flying serpent. The firstborn of the poor will feed, and the needy will lie down in safety. I will kill your roots with famine, and it will slay your remnant. Wail, O gate, cry, O city, all you of Philistia are dissolved. For smoke will come from the north, and no one will be alone in his appointed times. What will they answer the messengers of the nation? That the Lord has founded Zion, and the poor of his people shall take refuge in it.
Let me look at 28 real quick. Isaiah 14:28. Do not rejoice, all you of Philistia, because the rod that struck you is broken. There was constant warfare between Israel and the Philistines, and so on many occasions Israel was the rod that struck the Philistines. Now, when Israel and Judah would be humbled, God did not want the Philistines to glory in it. All of you Philistia are dissolved. God's judgment would come out against the Philistines also. They should not think that just because the God was judging the Israelites, that they somehow escaped. Makes sense to me. Right? Because we're all God's children, and that will teach them a lesson, teach the Philistines a lesson as well, right? Get them to think that, hey, we still did something wrong. We still messed up. We have to change. We're not going to get off scot-free. Look, our enemies are getting punished. That means we're okay. But today's reading was really interesting. 12 to 14. Let me just get a little sneak peek of what 15 is going to be about. 15, proclamation against Moab. So we're going to do 15 and a few other chapters. We'll jump in. I keep looking at my actual camera, but I'm on the webcam now. But yeah, we'll look into 15 tomorrow, and we'll continue on from there. We'll do 15 to 19. So hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. I thought it was really interesting. That was the first time I actually heard the story of the fall of Lucifer. I know I've heard like pastors speak about it, people speak about it, but that was my first time reading it. And I don't know if there are multiple accounts in the Bible of it, but at least in Isaiah, what we just read today, it is not necessarily the account of the fall of Lucifer. It is talking about Babylon and the king of Babylon. And it can be attributed to Lucifer because there are parallels that can be drawn there. But it was written talking about Babylon. That's interesting. I thought that was really interesting. So let me know your thoughts, right? I asked a few questions throughout. Let me know your answers and your thoughts down below in the comment section. And I will see you guys tomorrow for Isaiah chapter 15, all right? Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.